Today, I'm here with international best-selling author Mel Robbins. She is also the most booked public speaker in the world, which is amazing that she's here with us today. Mel has tips and tricks to help us not only be better people, but to get out of our own heads and stop screwing ourselves. So, I am delighted to introduce Mel Robbins. Thank you, Mel, for being here.
Thank you for having me, Marcia.
So I have just been in awe of how you are authentic, share your personal stories, you lay it all out there. What was your aha moment that said, this is what I need to do to help other people learn what I'm learning?
Well, what's interesting, because I am an incredibly intentional businesswoman, is that I never set out or had this epiphany that was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to write books. I'm going to get into personal development. I'm going to start sharing all this stuff. It was one gigantic accident after another. And I actually think a lot of divine intervention sprinkled in. So my brand of personal development and personal empowerment and all of the wisdom and advice and stuff that I share requires me typically to either fall in a hole or dig one for myself. And then when I find myself hitting a really tough patch, I need to manufacture a ladder to climb out of it. And it's in the struggles that I've had in life, whether they are personal struggles, struggles as a parent, struggles as a businesswoman, whatever it may be, that I have learned the most. And what happened with me really turning this into a business is that I first shared this thing that I call the 5-second rule, which is what I'm best known for at this point, creating this little brain trick. I shared it at the end of a TEDx talk in 2011. And what's funny about the story is the TEDx talk was not supposed to be about the 5-second rule. It was about career change. I had never told anybody but my husband about the 5-second rule.
Can you tell the women of mPower about the 5-second rule?
Oh, sure. So the 5-second rule is a simple brain hack with a ton of science that you're going to think is the stupidest thing you've ever heard, but it actually will change your life. And the way that you use it is in any moment where you're about to hesitate, just start counting backwards 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then move. And what you'll notice is throughout your day, there are dozens of moments where either fear, anxiety, procrastination, overthinking, self-doubt, people-pleasing, pick your poison in terms of what is stopping you, that those patterns of thinking and behavior hold you back. They also hold you in. And so those moments where you have the urge to say something, but you start to edit what you're going to say, or you start to second guess yourself, count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and something interesting happens. You interrupt habit loops that are stored in your basal ganglia, in your subconscious. And these are patterns of behavior and thinking, like procrastination, anxiety, worry, self-doubt, people-pleasing, that are holding you back from being your authentic self, from having more confidence and courage. When you count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you interrupt those habits. And the counting backwards requires your prefrontal cortex to pay attention. That's the part of the brain that you use when you're learning new behavior, when you are acting with courage or confidence, when you're doing any kind of strategic thinking. So the 5-second rule is a science-backed brain hack that you can use to interrupt patterns of behavior that hold you back and push yourself forward to create new ones.
And so you're doing the TEDx talk on a completely different topic.
Yes. First speech I'd ever given in my life, by the way.
Well, on a nice big stage at TEDx, right?
Yes. Well, they were offering a free trip to San Francisco. And at this point, my husband and I still had liens on our house, so this felt like a fabulous idea. And I get on that stage, and what you're witnessing in my TEDx talk is a 21-minute long panic attack. Literally, if you look closely, a minute into that TEDx talk that now has 28 million views, I have one of those gigantic neck rashes all over my chest.
I have to go back.
Oh, yeah.
I've watched it, but I didn't notice the rash.
Oh, and you'll watch me darting all over the stage like a maniac. I was so disassociated. I forgot how to end the speech. Literally near the end, I go, oh, by the way, there's this thing I do. I call it the 5-second rule. You need to move within 5 seconds of an idea or your brain will kill it. That was it. I then gave out my email address on stage. That's how out of it I was. I leave the stage, Marcia, and I go on with my life. I think I'm never agreeing to give a speech again. And a year later, TEDx starts putting talks online. I didn't even know it went online. Another year passes, so now it's 2013. By this point, I am an on-air commentator for CNN. We are clawing our way out of debt from the restaurant business. And somebody reaches out to me. Hey, I saw that thing in San Francisco. And I'm like, were you there? And they're like, no. It's like, it's on Facebook. I'm like, it's on Facebook? And that is how it all began. And as the TEDx talk started to spread around the world, emails started to pour in. And I was spending all my free time answering emails from people who were writing about extraordinary things. They were saying things like, I've lost 100 pounds using this. I'm able to stay sober using this. I stopped myself from attempting suicide by counting backwards. Pediatricians, therapists, veterans organizations. And that is what convinced me. I need to figure out why this is working. I didn't know the science until regular people started to write to me, and I became just obsessed with figuring out how to explain to somebody why counting backwards truly is the secret to changing any behavior.
Well, and I love the fact that you put the science with it, because it helps all of us understand what we're doing inside of our head. And I gave a speech on Saturday, and I had to say something very personal, and I'm not as used to saying many personal things on a big stage, and it's really sad.
Yeah.
And somebody told me that take a moment when I feel it, like when I would feel, the ugly cry getting ready to start, to take a moment and do math in my head. And then it switches your brain and it calms you down. And I did it, and it worked.
Yeah, because what you're doing when you do math in your head, same thing with the 5-second rule, is you are engaging the part of your brain that requires focus. And that shifts your mental attention away from what's going on in your body. There's a couple other things that you can do in that instance, and this is important for women in business to understand, and that is that there's no difference between a situation that makes you nervous, like telling a story that makes you emotional, and a situation that makes you excited. Physiologically, based on research, it's the exact same thing in your body. The difference between situations that make you nervous and excited is simply what your brain is saying about it. So that little trick that your friend gave you hijacked your mind, because in situations where you start going, I'm so nervous, I'm so nervous, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, you literally amp up
what happens
in your body. And then we make the mistake, because we don't understand that your body's just going into a state of being alert, nothing's going wrong, but your thoughts make it worse. And then you go, oh my gosh, because my armpits are sweating and my stomach is in knots, now it's even worse, and that's when the spiral begins. So it's an excellent technique. Another one you can use is go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then go, I'm so excited. Just think, I'm so excited to share this thing. I'm so excited. And that stabilizes your mind, and it makes your mind match the agitated state in your body. And I'm going to give everybody one more thing, for women in particular. One of the most profound things that you could actually do is get emotional. Because what happens based on research is that when somebody shows their vulnerability, particularly in a deeply personal story, you crack open the humanity of the people watching you. And what happens is you go from the person on the stage down to shoulder with everybody. I actually can't get through the speech. I, some years, do 111 speeches. I still can't get through my speech without choking up, because the stories are real. And so I also would just say to anybody, we women kind of get told this message that you got to be this, you can't get that. Like, don't get emotional, like losing control of yourself.
The ugly cry.
The other, well, the ugly cry's okay. Being emotional in terms of triggered and annoying and, kind of short with people, don't get that kind of emotional. But it's okay to be human. And in fact, what they see based on studying this is that if somebody screws up on stage, if somebody trips on stage, if somebody starts to cry as they're telling an emotional story, the audience, in terms of trustworthiness, believability, likability, skyrockets. because they see you as just like them.
Human being.
Yeah.
So you have a brand new book out, and I am so excited because you're here, you're starting your book tour. And so tell me about the high five habit.
So the high five habit is going to sound just as dumb as the 5-second rule. I think it's 100 times more powerful. And we are just scratching the surface on the research. So the habit is very simple. In the morning, after you brush your teeth, I want you to put your toothbrush down and I want you to take a look at yourself in the mirror. Now, for 50% of men and women, that right there is extraordinarily hard. Most men and women can't look at themselves in the mirror. They're either disgusted by themselves, or they are ashamed of things that they've done, or they have developed a habit of self-rejection that is so profound that you don't even realize that part of your morning routine is to ignore yourself. And that's 50% of people. 91% of women can't stand what they look like, and I think the number is just about as high for men. And so if you can look at yourself, what you're going to notice is that your mind immediately goes to what you need to fix or what you don't like. And then once you start criticizing your appearance or the way that you look, your mind naturally goes to all the things that you need to do now for everybody today and all the things that are going wrong and the things you didn't do. And this is a dirty little secret about everybody's morning. Everybody has a habit of self-rejection first thing in the morning. And this is where insecurity comes from. This is where a sense of unworthiness comes from. This is where the inability to forgive yourself comes from. This is, if you're a very successful person, for years, I was the kind of person that even as I'm creating extraordinary success, even though I'm using the 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, to push forward, to keep taking action, to change, I still looked in the mirror and saw everything that was wrong, everything. And it's this habit that I think every human being on the planet has. And so what you're going to do is you're going to look at yourself, and then you're simply, as dumb as it sounds, you're going to raise your hand and you're going to high five the human being in the mirror. And I want you to understand, you're not high fiving your reflection. There is a human being in the mirror every morning in the bathroom with you.
And it's you.
And it's you. They need you. They need you to stop picking them apart. They need you to understand how hard they're trying. They need you to be more positive and encouraging. And here's what's so powerful about the high five habit. And we are literally just scratching at the surface in terms of the profound research here. You have neural association already programmed into your brain and into your nervous system because you've high-fived or received high fives from other people your whole life. And you have never once high-fived somebody. I'll high-five you right now, right? You've never high-fived somebody.
You smile.
Yeah, well, you want to know why? Your brain just gave you a drip of dopamine. Your mind is now programmed from a lifetime of experience to give you dopamine whenever you go to high-five somebody else. And your brain doesn't know the difference between me high-fiving you and me high-fiving the woman in the mirror. And so when you go to raise your hand and high-five yourself, first of all, it's going to feel weird. And that's how you know it's working. Because your habit right now is to reject yourself. A high five symbolizes, I got you, I see you, let's do this, we can still win, keep going, I believe in you.
Right.
You have never high-fived somebody and thought, you suck, I hope you lose, I hate you. It is neurologically impossible for your brain to think anything but, I love you, I believe in you, I celebrate you, I see you. When you do the gesture, I don't even want you to say anything. So you're going to stand there, you're going to see yourself, you're going to go to raise your hand, and you're going to start to think this is the dumbest thing, and then all of a sudden your mind's going to go silent. And you'll either laugh, that's the dopamine, or you'll cry. This is very, very common for people to cry because it's this release that you feel of finally coming back home to yourself. And the interesting thing about it is when you leave the bathroom, you'll also feel a little like energized. You feel this kind of flip switch, and it's your mood changing. And we can explain that based on science too. You see, your nervous system has also been programmed by high fives and celebratory gestures. So whenever you go to wave at somebody, you raise your hand. When you hug somebody, you raise your arms. When you cross a finish line, you raise your arms. When you high five somebody, you raise your arms. When you fist bump somebody, you raise your arms. When your favorite team scores, you raise your arms. Your nervous system recognizes these gestures as celebratory gestures. So the flip that switches is your nervous system giving you this positive jolt. And so I'm on a mission to teach every human being on the planet this new habit. I want you to stack it with brushing your teeth, because we know based on research that your brain will learn a new habit much easier, or whatever the right word is, much easier, whatever it is, if you stack it with an old habit. So hopefully we're kind of getting the gunk out of your mouth so you're not spreading dragon breath on everybody. You're going to then raise your hand and you're going to high five yourself to send yourself into the day, knowing that you have your own back, knowing that no matter what happens today, you can still rely on yourself. That if your boss doesn't like you, or that client, is upset with the fact that the mortgage hasn't been approved yet or whatever, that doesn't change the fact that you like you, that you still support you. And so this is so foundational, because what it's doing is it's using programming in your body and your mind and your spirit to change your relationship with yourself. And this is so important because our relationship with ourselves is the foundation for every experience you have in life. How you see yourself, whether or not you feel that you're worthy, or that you deserve support, or that you deserve to feel encouraged, that is how you see the rest of the world. How you treat yourself is how you are in every other relationship. Like, I think that women in particular are so insecure, and we're such people pleasers, not only because it's been conditioned into us, but because we have been trained to seek our validation and source of approval and love outside of ourselves. If you can learn how to stand before the woman in the mirror every single morning and see a human being that's worthy, even though you hate your weight, even though you don't have the money in the bank that you want, even though you're going through a divorce, or you have a terrible diagnosis, or you're struggling, if you can still see a human being that is worthy of your support, it changes everything. Everything. And there's even just so much more science because of the gesture. Like, the thing that I love about this is positive affirmations don't work. And the reason why they don't work is because if you don't believe the affirmation, your brain rejects it based on the programming that's already in there. So for example, I love body positivity. Self-acceptance, self-love, super important. But if you have for 20 years told yourself that you're fat, or that you hate yourself, or you hate your body, and you hide in the back of photos, if you stand in front of a mirror and are like, I love my body, your brain's gonna be like, no you don't. I watch you. But when you go like this, the physical gesture proves to your brain that even though you're not necessarily happy with where your health is, the physical gesture proves that you still support and love yourself anyway, which only makes you feel more motivated to want to go do the work to take care of yourself. It's incredible.
A high five is very powerful. And you know what? I'm going to ask all the women at mPower, not only to high five each other, but high five themselves. Get your book.
Yes.
I'm so delighted to have been able to sit down with you, and you're sharing your wisdom with our community. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. High five.
High five.